Hey, in this video, I'm finally going to show you how this year you can break through your plateaus and get out of what I call the 80-mile-per-hour loop. And you're going to be able to do this without ever having to grab some type of underload or overloaded ball or a sand-filled ball or running as fast as you can and throwing into a net to see what the gun says. This is the same three-step process as a part of my HC4 remote program that guys are using to see results every single day and every single week from around the country. These are players and pitchers just like you that do not wake up out of bed with some electric arm that they were gifted from the arm gods with. These are guys that want to get to work hard, and see more velocity. Hi, my name's Scott Haase. I've worked for the last 15 years with over 1,000 pitchers, and by the end of this video, you're going to know the exact 3 steps of what it's going to take to finally break through. These are the 3 steps that I use and all of our athletes use to add what's called healthy velocity. Not just cheap velocity, not velocity that might get you hurt, but healthy velocity. The first thing we're going to cover in more detail moving forward is the daily accountability. How you can keep track of things every single day that keep you healthy and working towards your goals so that you can achieve those goals and keep coming back stronger than ever and you don't see any setbacks. Number 2, we're going to talk about finding your brand new motor, your source of power and energy in your mechanics, and it's what's called spine dominant versus limb dominant, and you're going to find out what most people are and what you need to become. And lastly is bulletproof progressions. If you want to stay healthy, but you don't have progressions in place and ones that are bulletproof and health first focused, then there's a really good chance that even if things are going well, you're probably going to peter out and you're going to end up either on the DL where you're not throwing or with an injury. So real quick, I just want to make sure that you're in the right place, you're watching the right video, and that this is for you. It may not be, but if you find yourself in one of these 3 range loops, what I call the 80-mile-per-hour loop, either you're in the low, the mid, or the 80s, then you're in the right place. So more specifically, what they are is if you're in the low 80s range, you sit in this loop of anywhere from 80 to 83, you kind of just, sometimes you're 80, sometimes you're 83, and you just kind of loop around in here. You're able to top as high as 84 on a rare occasion, but that 85 just seems to elude you and you just can't seem to get to it. Maybe you're in the mid 80s range where you're able to sit 84, 85. You occasionally touch 86 or 87, but you really just kind of loop around in here. Heck, you might even dip back into the low 80s. And this 88 ain't happening. 85 ain't happening. And maybe you're in the high 80s loop where you're able to sit 87, 88. You're in the upper 80s. You top maybe 89. You kind of sniff it every once in a while. But that 90 and the 90 plus range, for some reason, you just can't hit it and you continue to loop. And then if you fall down the ladder as well, that can be unbelievably frustrating. So if this is you, you're in the right place. And then lastly, just one time, I just need to double check this. If you are also the person that is willing to be held accountable, if you're the type of person that wants to take a health first approach, if you're the type of person that does not shy away from hard work and is willing to finally get after it so you can move beyond low up into the mid, you can go from mid to high and you can go from high to making this 90-mile-per-hour a reality. If you're willing to put in the work and use the right mindset to get there, I can give you the tools, but you need to be the right type of person. And if you are not, no harm, no foul. I'm not here to judge you. We're just not on the same page, and that is perfectly fine, and I wish you well. By all means, I post 30 videos a day on social media and on YouTube, so I've got a ton of content that you can go to, watch that, and enjoy that content. There's a ton of good content, but this is more specifically for the pitcher that is ready to get after it right now because the decision has finally been made. Before we get into all the details of how we do things, I want to tell you guys and show you guys how we're different. So how the healthy velo approach with our HC4 formula is different from other velo and how guys try to go about getting velocity. So what we do is we take a health first approach. Every decision we make has your health in mind. Whether it's your food, sleep, and water that we're looking at, whether it's your arm health, whether it's your previous injury history, and how that is going to take into account a lot of different factors and how that is going to adjust how we program your things. It's all from a health first focus. as opposed to a lot of the other the formulas or the coaches or the training or whatever it is to try to get velocity the other way. It's usually by any means necessary. Hey, here's what we've heard works. We're gonna try it out and hope for the best. We're gonna try and do a run and gun program because I see all these guys lighting up the radar gun when they run as fast as they can and then they throw it, not working on any of their mechanics. So you're trying to get this cheap trick and this hack. I'm just gonna run as fast as I can, trick my body into moving faster, which sometimes it does, and then guess what? You haven't changed your mechanics, so you don't actually move any better and you're not stronger. You're just trying to throw it as hard as you can because you're thinking by any means necessary, I'm just gonna try and throw this thing as hard as possible while running, sometimes with a baseball that's smaller than your normal one, not having any clue of what it can do to your injury history and future. Meanwhile, a lot of the parents and players that I talk to that go about this type of approach, they talk to me about all the guys around them getting injured, or they hear there's been too many people getting injured, so they don't even want to continue. So that's a big difference. The second difference is you're finding a completely new energy source. I talked about the difference between being spine dominant as opposed to limb dominant. You're training your body a completely different way to use the new set of mechanics that we'll give to you coming from the spine first and how we do that, as opposed to getting confusing drills where you're not even really sure what the coach just said, but then he tells you to do it, and then he's happy when you do the drill, but you're not sure if it's actually going to give you any results or any velocity or if it's going to feel good. And heck, some people don't even feel good when they're doing those things. So that's, on top of confusing, also frustrating because it goes back to your health and it can eventually get you injured because yes, you may be doing what the coach wants you to do, but there's a really good chance that's just how he was taught when he was a player. And if it worked for him, he thinks it's going to work for everybody. But guess what? We all know that's not the case. So getting these confusing drills, these old drills, these drills that just don't work and don't show results. And yes, they might say, hey, it worked for, XYZ guy. But if you're not that guy and you don't have the same type of health or mechanics or size or whatever it is, then those drills are basically completely useless to you. And then the last thing is consistent monitoring. So we monitor guys. We're taking as much as we can on the front end to find out about your health and consistently following up with you. All the guys, all of our remote guys, we talk to all the time and we're following up with, and they have an open door policy to ask questions. And we are constantly monitoring their health, their mechanics, and whatever else they're needing. As opposed to the other method, which is kind of like fingers crossed. Here, I'm gonna give you this. It might be once a week. It might be a templated program that you just do it and we hope for the best and we'll never talk to you again, or we're gonna wait a really long time to get back with you. We're just hoping, and you're just hoping, that it works. And then 6 weeks go by, 6 months go by, 3 years go by, and you're frustrated because there wasn't really someone monitoring it for you. And although you thought it was good because maybe you saw it was a cool program and it just looked fun, but then you get in there and you're frustrated because there's nothing going on. There's no one monitoring. There's nothing going on. You just have the same program, and then you're getting little to no coaching. Or maybe you're just working with someone in person and he says, for 15 minutes after you've warmed up and the coach is sitting on a bucket, and the coach is probably a great guy and he means really well. And I love all my coaches. But there's some coaches, and I used to be one of those, that they are just out there doing the best they can in 15-minute windows to try to give you a couple different drills and have you throw a couple strikes and you feel good and I'll see you next week. We know that is not the way to get better. You don't get better at your bench press by doing a couple push-ups, a couple bench press, and then see you in a week. That doesn't happen. That's not the way it works. If you're asking for proof, I know that's what you want, so let's talk about proof. The proof is in the pudding, right? The proof is in the formula and with our athletes. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I was actually my very first case study as a coach. I was testing things out. I'm a lot like what you guys used to be. And if you're the parent, I'm like your son used to be. I was searching on the internet. I was reading books. I was going to the library, finding anything I could, taking weeks and months to figure stuff out on my own and just try stuff. I didn't have a coach, but in one off season in college, I was able to add 5 miles per hour onto my fastball. And that helped me a ton. And that was that was 15 years ago. Also, 15 years of working with guys every week and every year for the last 15 years. Over 1,000 pitchers that we've helped transform, tons and tons and tons of college guys and guys in professional baseball as well. Also, I spent about a decade as a health coach and a personal trainer. So that has afforded me all kinds of opportunities, experience, certifications. And then specifically with the additional certifications, for about a 5-year period, I traveled the country to find anyone that could help me out with player development, to get pitchers better, to get them throwing harder, to get them healthy, whether whether it was someone inside baseball or in golf or in strength and conditioning. And I was at a lot of these seminars, networking with all these smart individuals, getting a bunch of certifications. If there was a baseball certification during that time frame for about 5 years, I was probably at that inaugural first one and getting those certifications. And then that afforded me the opportunity to apply for a handful of different major league and minor league positions within pitching. And then ultimately I decided to stay home and go with the business and be with the family, but it afforded me a lot of opportunities, and it has just afforded me the ability to continue to help our guys at literally the highest level, because this is what people aren't doing, because it's what the best are doing from all over the place. And it's really hard to kind of gather all that information, but I literally would travel the country to try to figure out all that information and then put it all into one place so that we could help all of our guys from all over the country, finding out what literally the best coaches, instructors, trainers, and people in the world are doing, and then bring it into our athletes as well. And then I want to tell you about some of our players that have had success as well. The first guy I want to tell you about is Matt. He was a guy that through middle school and high school was always undersized, saw very, very little pitching appearances because of his size. So it's kind of one of those guys that, you maybe put in to throw strikes or something, but like he just didn't throw a lot because he didn't have the size, it didn't have the velocity. But we knew, because we were looking at a lot of the different factors, that dad was a college pitcher and dad is 6'3". And we knew with what he was working on, with what he was building, as soon as he went through his growth spurt, he was going to become a stud. So went from undersized and underutilized to then topping out at 88 miles per hour just this past summer. And now he's going into college with an unbelievably fresh arm, and was able to finally see success and see innings after he went through those stages and became a high school stud and was the hardest guy on his high school team. And now he's going into his freshman year. And we've got Sam, who went from dead arm, where his arm just never felt good. He was throwing low 80s and his arm never felt good. Wasn't necessarily sore or in pain, but it never felt good. And in just a couple weeks, got him from the low that we talked about, that low loop before, back up into the mid range, getting about 3 miles per hour in just a couple weeks, using kind of that first principle of just talking about his health and working on his health. And then he was able to get himself up to 88, up to 90, up to 91, transferred to a different college because he was throwing so much harder and feeling so much better. Then that next fall was at 92, and then up to 93. And then lastly is Jalen, who during his freshman year of high school he put on 12 miles per hour, and then has continued to work at it, continued to put on more velocity. And now he's kind of on a D1 tour where he's going to a lot of Division I schools to do showcases and visits and talk to all those schools, and he's communicating with a lot of them, and a lot of them reaching out to. And he's in that process right now where he's one of the more highly touted guys, and he topped out last summer at 91 miles per hour. Here are the pillars of what our HC4 formula and our entire process is built on with the healthy velo approach. Number one is a health first approach, a health first accountability. So we talked about holding our athletes accountable. So every single day they're doing what's called a wellness assessment. And they're looking at things like their food, their sleep, and their water, and they're scoring each one of them. It takes about 30 seconds. Because we know through years of doing this that if one or multiple of these are not where they're supposed to be, are not on track, are trending in the wrong direction, are out of range where they need to be, that can directly impact your health, your velocity, your ability to compete in games, your ability to have a good workout or a good outing, and then your ability to actually recover. And you do that over and over and over, and you don't have those things in place and no one holding you accountable, then what happens is your velocity goes down while your injury rate or risk of injury goes up. And that is not the combination we need if you're trying to throw harder. And if you're trying to not only throw harder, but then compete in games and be effective and stay in games and continue to be a guy that is counted on. And some guys do this and they don't realize it because they get by just enough. They're good enough. They can, so we talked about those ranges. You can kind of peak at a higher velocity and you're doing okay. But then if you pitch more than 3 or 4 innings, you kind of go downhill. It's oftentimes because of your health first or lack thereof approach to your training when you're not on the field. What are you doing and who's holding you accountable off the field to make sure that on the field and in the gym and at practice things are going the way that they should be. The number 2 thing is your power source. We talked about we're going to completely shift and transform your current power source, which for 99.9% of youth athletes and amateur athletes, basically anyone that's not someone you're watching on TV, they are what's called a limb dominant pitcher. They're trying to use their arms and they're trying to use their head and they're trying to find velocity in all of these different drills and different ways that have been taught forever, and they ignore one of the strongest parts of their body. Even if they get to use their legs and they figure that out, they then go from legs to arms and they completely skip out on the trunk and the spine. So we teach guys, if you can learn to use one of your most powerful resources, your spine and your trunk and your core and this entire area, on top of also figuring out how to use your legs, you combine those two together, guess what? Your arm doesn't have to do a whole lot of work, and we end up finding what is the best gift I can give to anybody, which is what's called effortless velocity. When your entire body without your arm can learn to develop velocity and your arm doesn't have to do very much work, guys start to say things to me and they start to hear it from their coaches that, wow, that looks really smooth, that looks really quick and whippy or athletic, or it just looks like it's kind of effortless. That is unbelievable, and that also leads to a healthier arm that's able to train more consistently. Guess what? Tends to throw a lot harder. We actually had one of our guys, Alec, who came in and for about a 3-year period in college, never got past 92. Was consistently a guy that could sit upper 80s and could occasionally touch low 90s. Once, twice, 3 times over a 3-year period, was able to hit 92. He actually said when he started doing the drill work here of focusing on being more spine dominant, those new drills, which were brand new to him, were actually some of the best drills that he'd ever done. They were his new favorite drills. He loved doing them. He spent a ton of time, just extra time working on them. And then he was actually able to, in just about a week or 2-week period, go from where he was before, having had the best summer of his life because of the things that we were implementing, to when we really went hard on this. He not only topped out at 92 in his warm-ups effortlessly, he then topped out at 93.4 miles per hour. And this is a guy who hadn't thrown above 92 in his life. And guess what? That was indoors, not to a catcher and not live. And typically that translates to being even higher when you add in the juices from all that. So this is incredible. And then we take that new energy source and then inject it into our HC4, which is where this comes from, mechanical system. So we really try to simplify everything, get you to find your new power source, and then get you to implement it into these 4 basic mechanical phases: the lift, the bend, the stride, and the throw. Nothing crazy here. It doesn't need to be 15 different things. We simplify it so that you don't have 15 different drills that you need to do, and so that you don't have drills to do that you have no idea what they're for. And now you're doing these drills so that your mechanics are super healthy and smooth and looking like what you're trying to see, which will give you more velocity, but then they're coming from a stronger source. So you combine those 2 things, a more powerful energy source for power and velocity with more efficient mechanics, and that's where guys just take off. And then lastly is bulletproof progressions. It's one thing for a coach to say, hey, all right, it's week 1 and you're gonna throw 40 pitches and you throw 40 straight pitches and you haven't thrown 40 straight pitches all off season. That's one thing to do. And then next week he says throw 60 and then 90 and then all right, and you take no breaks and there's no real actual legit progression about it. What we do is we give you the when, the how many, and the what intensity, understanding the health first approach. So you're gonna know based on where you're at. Are you coming off of an injury? Are you coming off of a season where you threw a ton? Are you coming off of a really, really legit off-season program from just kind of like you did a lot of long toss, you've thrown off the mound a few times? Are you in the middle of the season and you need to kind of deload and take some time off? Do you need to increase? Do you need to maintain? Are you at the end of the season? How much did you throw? So we take all those things into consideration, and then we specifically outline every single day so you know when you're supposed to throw, when you're supposed to not throw. You're knowing how many throws you should be doing, how long it is, and then you're knowing at what intensity. Because in my 10 years as a personal trainer, and my 15 years of working with this and pitch progressions with thousands of pitchers, what I've found is guys either go in with no plan or they overthrow way too quickly. And it's usually a combination of the two. So we have a progressive plan that regardless of where you are, we can either pick up where you left off and continue and build, or adjust, or deload if you need a little bit of a break and that's what's needed. Or we can start you from ground one because maybe you're in the off season, or maybe you're kind of working up to the season, or maybe you just left the season and you need to know what to do. We're going to find a place for you to start, which may not be even in the bullpen. Maybe it's just long toss, and then we progress every single week, and you know every single day what you're doing, how many, and at what intensity.
Let's go ahead and take a look at when you guys actually get into the program. This is what your sheet's going to look like. So it's a Google sheet. There's different tabs at the bottom here, and what you'll find is a couple different things that is really, really cool that we've developed over the last year or so. And so, for example, if you only have 15 minutes to train, you can click this button, and it's basically going to pre-populate the drills and exercises or the throwing drills that you need to do to work on your mechanics. If there's any notes from your coach, we'll add them in here and say, Ben needs to XYZ on each of his throws or whatever it is. And then over here is just some general notes, the intensity level key. So this is the effort level that we want every time that you are throwing. If, for example, you have a low intensity day, there's a whole bunch of different days that are programmed specific to your schedule. So there's another scheduling tab below here that you'll see. And based on that, we're programming every single day. So you don't have to worry about doing what I did when I played, which was try and figure out on a day-to-day basis, week to week, month to month, like, what do I want to do today? My coach really isn't helping me. My coach doesn't even know how to help me, or he's putting something together, but it's really not giving me the results that I need. And so we'll schedule out each of these days exactly as we need to. And as soon as we start, we'll change the start date. In the yellow will always be the date that is today. So when you pull this up, any scheduling notes are here. So if you have practice, if you have a game, if you have some type of event and you can't do it, that helps us adjust accordingly and kind of see it as we're scheduling through. This is going to be if you completed it, and then if you also completed your wellness questionnaire. So that is also a daily questionnaire down here, a tab that you'll fill out. If you ever do any velo days, we got an area where you can type in your velo. This is where you're going to update your schedule. Any type of scheduling notes that you have, put them in there. That helps us schedule out your throwing sessions, when you should be resting, when you should be throwing, and at what intensity. We've actually got about 50 journal prompts in here for guys that want to continue their journaling and make that a serious and legit habit. We've got nutrition goals and tracking. We've got different snack ideas. And then we've got some example template workouts for guys that maybe aren't getting as much from their strength and conditioning coaches, and they want to see a different type of program. We don't exclusively program exactly day to day with your workout within here, but these templates you guys can just reach out to us and ask, how you can incorporate those into your current programs. So that is a brief overview of the actual tracking sheet that you'll get customized to you and what you need to work on. And then also I chipped this out here because I didn't want to have some of our athletes' names showing up just for privacy reasons, but we've got a Q&A section, a wins where everybody is, reporting on their wins. So we just had some guys last night hit their PRs. They're putting them in here so the community can support each other. Then we've got just general announcements. So for example, here, this was in December, where every week there is an audio, might just be a couple minutes. I think today I recorded it and it was about 4 minutes or 5 minutes. It's just an audio for the week, just a little bit of a, something in your head to be thinking about, something to get you motivated. It could be mechanically related, could be health related, could be just motivation to get you pumped up for that. Here is one of the giveaways that we've done. Sometimes I'll pop in and throw a video in there as well for guys. So this is an example of when you're in the community, you're not only going to have, announcements coming from me and updates and videos, wins with everybody else, any questions you have, you'll put that in the group, but also you're going to have your own group, whether it's you and me, or you, me, and one of our other coaches, you, me, and your parents, whoever you want to be in that group, and we can include everyone in that group so everybody has an idea of what's going on. If there's specific questions to your program, if there's video updates, if you guys are sending video, that is where that's at. So having this, I really want you to ask yourself, if you could continue for the next, what took me 18 months on my journey to add velocity, I didn't have any of this stuff. When I was in college, it was going to the library. YouTube was only a couple years old. I was Googling on chat forums trying to figure out, okay, on a random Friday, what should I do? Oh, maybe I should rest today because I don't know what to do. What workout should I do? What throwing drills should I do? All of this is in here. Like I said, that took me 18 months. So I want you to just kind of imagine what life would be like if you did not have any of this. You didn't have a group and a community and someone to reach out to and ask those questions. What would your career look like over the next 18 months? If I could save you those 18 months, if I could save you 18 weeks, what if I could, in 18 minutes, give you a program and a plan, and you know exactly what you have to do every single day, and you have someone that's going to hold you accountable and a group of guys that are going to support you? What would that look like? How would that feel? How much more confidence would you have on the mound when you go out there knowing you were doing exactly what you need to do to get to exactly where you want to be? So this is why guys are having the wins up in this group area, and like Jacob right there, he PR'd. I think it was Chase, he PR'd, and not only his velocity for on the mound, but also he was infield throw across the diamond. He PR'd there. The reason these guys are doing this, and the reason you can do it, is because you're going to know exactly what you need to do. And when something comes up and there's something that's wrong and you have a question, you have not only a community, but you have a group of coaches that were able to help you get to figure out exactly what you need to do so you can get to your goals infinitely faster. So you don't have to wait 18 months for a program where you kind of figure it out to kind of maybe get results, but you're not even sure. And there's a really good chance if you're watching this video and you're looking through here, shortly after these few months, your season might be done. Your career might be done. Or just a year and a half later, your career might be done. Or you're really unsure what's happening, or if a coach is looking at you, if you're trying to transfer or find a school or get into a school, whatever it is, like maybe you don't have 18 months. So how much faster do you feel like you could get to your goal? I'm telling you right now, with having an exact plan on what you need to do specific to you and all of your needs and all your schedules and all the drills and all the video feedback, this is the plan.
So what's next? If I have described to a T the type of athlete you are and you want to be, or for parents, the type of athlete your son is and he wants to be, and he's stuck in that 80-mile-per-hour loop, and you guys are looking for the health-first approach, for the accountability, for the transformation, what I want you guys to do next is the link below or the link somewhere on this page in the description. You can book a call. We'll get on that call. We'll make sure it's a right fit so that everything is in line, and we will start, if it's a right fit, seeing then the program implemented, and within just a few weeks, you guys are going to see a complete transformation of how you are pitching, how your son is pitching, and he's going to start seeing results, because this is the year. You guys have decided. If this is you and you've made that decision and you know this is the year and you know this is the program, go ahead and click that link. It'll take you to set up a call, and we will get started as soon as possible.